Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. I am Rob, your host, and today is a fun day we're going to drink through some bourbons here and give you a little information and some of our thoughts on what we think you can find out in your local liquor stores or the big shops and what's a really good value. We're going to get into that here in just a minute, but before we do, let me introduce who's joining the show today to kind of give some good information, some opinions and things. We have Matt and Carter. We're going to call Matt Carter so we don't have to. The Matt and Matts are back again.
That works for me.
How you guys doing?
Good, man.
And Dave Scott hobbled in to record the show with us. How you doing, Dave?
I'm well. One day after knee surgery, I'm ready to
I'm impressed, man.
toss back some bourbons.
No crutches, no nothing.
Painkiller right here on the table.
I was telling the guys before you got here that I talked to you yesterday just to see how you were doing after surgery, and you were like, man, I thought I could come home and relax and have a couple bourbons just to kind of, take the edge off, and you were like, can't drink for 24 hours.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to this.
Well, and you're getting the special treatment today.
That's right.
You say, I need a glass, and we're all jumping up to go help out.
Yeah, I know.
That's
right. I don't know if I told you, you two young guys over there, my knee hurts.
That's not going to work the same.
Not going to work today?
No. Yeah, might as well milk it for 24 hours. So.
There you
I
go.
thought you get 3 days, doctor said.
Yeah.
Take as much as you can get.
Depends on who's asking.
That's right. Well, today's show, Dave, we did a show, probably been a month and a half ago, where we went through with Joby. You guys weren't there, but we did bourbons that we thought were a great value and quality and accessible for 12 to about that $30 range. And we really touched on some really good ones there.
Yeah, those bottom shelf heroes.
Yeah. And this episode, we want to kind of raise it up a notch and jump into that $30 to $60 range. And, when we talked about the 12 to 30, I think you have, in my opinion, 5 or 6 really good, solid heroes that you can find and on a regular basis and are just really good drinks. When you get into this $30 to $60 range, I think the playground is just so much bigger that you can jump in and mess around with. So I thought it would be fun just to kind of have a conversation, drink through some of these, but just kind of rattle off what we think are really good buys, really good quality whiskeys, always available on the shelf when you go look for them in that $30 to $60 range.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So I think, let's start with distillers. Let's my favorite, it's become my favorite here in the last few months, Wild Turkey. Let's start there. So
Okay.
I think, Rare Breed jumps out at me right away. When you talk about $40 to $45, I think on a regular basis you can find this batch. It's on the shelf everywhere you go. 116.8 proof. And to me, it's fantastic. This has 6, 8, and 12-year-old bourbon in it. Where else are you going to get, that kind of quality bourbon from a distiller like Wild Turkey who puts out some fantastic product for $40, $45?
Yeah, I bought this one this morning for $40 at Total Wine. So, yeah.
I think the answer is you don't, right? So there's, realistically, I'm sure there's others out there, but it is such a good value, such good quality for that price range, and it seems like everyone is kind of jumping onto the train now of it. And I'll be the first to say I hadn't tried it until probably January of this year, maybe. Someone said, "Hey, try this." It's Wild Turkey Rare Breeds. It's kind of up in that $40 to $50 range, and I tried it, and I thought, man, this is great.
So it's just this year you tried it?
Yeah, the first time
Really?
I tried it was this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It took me a while too.
Yeah.
Getting into Wild Turkey, I still had that perception of, it's
back in the college days.
yeah, and man, it's really good stuff. So I'm very impressed with that. Is there anything else on the Wild Turkey side before we jump over?
I'd say, just personal opinion, I like some of the Wild Turkey stuff. It's not my flavor profile for the most part, though. It's very, earthy, minerally. It doesn't really, sing to me.
Okay.
But, like you said, what else can you find out there that's 6 to 12 years old that just sits on the shelf all the time? It's hard to think of it.
Yeah, and in that line also, the next step up, I guess you would say, is the Russell's Reserve single barrel, which you can get in, single barrel or the single barrel pick, usually for around $50.
I was gonna say $50 to $55, and they sit on the shelf. They're everywhere.
You can find those everywhere.
And those generally have the same flavor profile. You know, they're different, but they have the kind of the initial keynotes that you would get from
Those
your
single
turkey
barrels.
products.
You know,
of
everyone's
course.
gonna be
Yeah, the thing I like about the single barrels, and I do like the Russell's picks. That's kind of more toward what I enjoy, but there's so much uniqueness from bottle to bottle, and you know, you get things out of that like you'll get some cherry profile, or you'll get some chocolate, or something like that. That's not really your standard wild turkey profile, and that's one thing that I really like about the Russell's pick is there's such wide variation there, and there's a bottle that's going to appeal to somebody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The other thing I like about those is it's not hard to find, you know, picks, groups that are going in and putting some fun stuff in a bottle for us to pick up and try as well. So you see those quite often.
And some of those bottles appeal to everybody because they're very good.
Right.
You know, there's
certain
ones that are standouts. I mean, as there are with any other single barrel, you know, pick, but.
Yep, and I guess there's one more in that line also, the Kentucky Spirit, that is a single barrel that.
It's in that range, but I wouldn't recommend it just because I would say go buy 2 101s, and to me, you're going to be happier than buying one Kentucky Spirit for $58.
I would agree. And and as we just talked about those, the pricing for each one of those goes up from rare breed, the private barrel Russell's Reserve, and then the Kentucky Spirit, yet they go down in proof.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, that's
odd.
odd.
Rare breed, $40, 45, 116.8, 110 on the Russells, and it's $50, $55.
Yep.
And then 57 to 60 on the Kentucky Spirit, and it's 101.
Right.
Same as
makes no
101.
sense.
It's an odd deal.
It is.
And now you've talked me into wanting to have a pour of this
I'm
Russell's
gonna go
Reserve.
for that.
I think I'm going to join you. Hey, just, you know, I was doing a little reading, trying to just learn a little bit about rare breed because I'm like you, Matt. I just kind of got into it in the last year. I thought you'd been into it for a while. I didn't realize you just kind of.
So I've been doing the Russell's picks for a long time, and you know 101. Just I always have it there, and that's kind of one of the first ones that I'll you know give to people to try. You know when they're getting into bourbon, getting into whiskeys. But the rare breed. You know I just heard everyone's like, oh, the rare breed, you got to have it. I just hadn't had it, so but I'm glad. I usually keep one of those kind of downstairs now, and then whenever I have those people that try something, like especially if it's someone who's new to it, I'll make them try Wild Turkey 101, and then if they're like, oh, I really like that, it's not too hot, then I'll pour some of the rare breed for them and see what their thoughts are. And typically they say, wow, it's hot, it's a little bit hotter than you know what I'm used to being new into it, but you know I'm enjoying it, and I can see some of the similarities.
Mm-hmm. Did you all know why rare breed started? Why Jimmy Russell did that? I didn't know this either until I read it yesterday.
No idea.
Because of Booker's.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Booker's started in '88 from Jim Beam.
Yeah.
And they're still only doing 68-year bourbon in that.
Right.
But Jimmy said we got to have something to compete with that. So Rare Breed came out in '91, and it's 6, 8, and 12-year.
Yeah. And I like the price point better.
I like the price point a lot better. I like that you can find it on the shelf all the time, too.
Go.
Anywhere
you can go anywhere and find the rare breed. Yeah. Booker's.
That being said, though, there are some Booker's batches that come out
absolutely.
that are
still like
phenomenal.
Butcher's. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
But
there's other ones that are missed, too.
Booker's is what, 70, 75, somewhere in that range?
It's about $70, usually.
I think they just increased the price.
Did
they?
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Now, the last one in Wild Turkey that I know we're doing bourbons and ryes today, they just came out with their brand new Rare Breed Rye, which I think is fantastic. I think it's proofed at, what is it on the bottle? 112.2.
Yep.
And I think, 50, I've seen it between $50 and $60, depending on where you go.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you introduced me to it, Rob, like one of our bottle shares that we had, and it's awesome. It's creamy. I don't know the best way to describe rye as creamy, but it has that kind of quality to it.
I agree with you, though.
It's just very easy to drink. I enjoy the heck out of it.
The question is it going to be available the same as how the Rare Breed bourbon is available?
Is yes.
Right.
Is it?
Yes.
It is? Because right now it's not. You can't, I mean,
It's
still,
just now getting out. And,
Yeah.
But Wild Turkey has said it's going to be just like rare breed. They'll
That's
sit on the
perfect.
shelf
Yeah, it's
side by
just
side.
So new to the market, everybody's grabbing them
Right.
up
Yeah.
while
Oh, yeah.
they
Well,
can.
I was
Kind of
lucky enough to get one, and funny, Rob, we talked about this, but mine tasted entirely different than yours
Yeah.
did until the second time I opened it up. After having some of yours, because you were like, "Oh, this is great." So I found a bottle, got it, and I'm like, "I don't really like this that much." But
And
then
your
I
wife
had-
felt the same way.
Yes,
She's
yeah,
a
we-
bourbon
yeah, we-
drinker. Yeah.
Yes. So and then we were at the get together and tried yours, and I was like, "This tastes entirely different." I went home, and and at that point, it tasted closer to what your bottle.
You think it was
was
just a neck pour or something? You think it was?
I don't know. I mean,
Maybe
I
something you
I
ate
know,
or
I know
something?
it could. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be the setting. What I ate before. I mean, a lot of
You
those.
were with your wife, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Oops. Sorry, Taylor.
No implication there.
Yeah.
I mean, you said
I'm
setting.
gonna
I
tell
didn't
her
say
not to
it.
listen to this recording.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking. I guess I had pretty low expectations for it. You
Yeah.
know, just because okay, yeah, they're
Gimmicky thing, hey,
you
you gotta
know,
do a rye.
Hey, we got to do a rye, and I tried it. And I got to give them credit. I mean, this is really good.
Dave and I, and we'll talk about some other ryes here in a little while, but we did a blind with this. And both of us said quickly, this is, I think, of those ryes we can find in this price range, jumped up and became my favorite.
Or were you comparing it to did you have Willet or
Had the Pikesville.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about here
That's
in
a
a little
good
bit.
one.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic. But this kind of leapfrogged it for me. And then we did a blind with some of these other ones in here. And they finished in that same order with us not knowing, but still picking this one as our favorite. So I was like, it's not just me looking at it and just kind of thinking it is. It really is a solid rye. Just for a first batch, I'm impressed at how good this is.
Oh yeah.
And I think when I picked up the bottle, I think it was $50. So I mean, I think we said it was that 50 to 60
Yep.
price
Yeah.
point. I mean, when you're comparing those $50 price point to Willet 4 year if you can find it,
Right.
when you can find it, which those are kind of hit or miss. Some are amazing. I love a lot of them, and then others are kind of just have a different different profile to them based on their proof. But I think that competes very well with that range.
Yeah, so I think for Wild Turkey, those three are staples that if you're shopping in that $30 to $60 range, rare breed, the Russell single barrel, and that rare breed rye, if you like a rye, those are just can't misses.
Now I haven't tried it, but I've heard negative things about. Is it the Long Branch or what was it?
Yeah.
Is that what's called
Yeah,
Long Branch?
That's the
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey
Mesquite
sponsored.
Oh, it's Mesquite Wood. Okay.
Yeah.
Anytime you get into Bradshaw bourbon or any
yeah.
of these rockers who have their tequila, whatever, I'm just not a fan.
Yeah. Well, it's not to say. I mean, if the stuff is good, the stuff is good, right?
Right.
But it's just typically you find maybe
It's
that
$40 for $15 whiskey.
Yeah.
So
I think that was their penalty for having Matthew McConaughey be their spokesperson. All right, we've got to release this product. But I hate to make everybody jealous on the podcast, but this is an amazing Russell's pick.
Yes.
well, and let's tell people where this is from because we got this, and it's. I mean, I'm down to like this much in my bottle. I'm like, man, you got a lot. I'm gonna come over here more.
yeah, it's fantastic. This one came out of South Carolina, right?
Yeah, South Carolina from Brad. Ben hooked us up.
Ben, yeah.
And that's a Warehouse A.
It is. It is.
Is that Camp Nelson? Well, no, that's Tyrone, isn't it? It's Tyrone Warehouse A.
I think so. Yeah, this is one. This one was selected by Paddock and Whiskey Bottles. So,
This has
fantastic.
a Jim Beam nose to me. Lots of peanut,
Yes.
lots of nuttiness to it.
It does, but in my opinion, I'm getting a little cherry.
Like it's a cherry too.
Anyway,
I agree, but
Yeah,
what you don't usually expect with Wild Turkey
Wild Turkey
products is the nut.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
My favorite thing about this whiskey is the finish. I mean, it's just got this long, lingering, pleasing finish. I mean, you can take a drink and just sit down for a minute and a half and just enjoy it.
Right.
I say another thing like that I'll point out on this one. The mouthfeel, it's an oilier coating type of.
Than a lot of
Absolutely
other Russells that I've
agree
had.
with you 100%.
It's fantastic.
But they're non-chill filtered, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree. I get a lot of cherry fruit on the palate. I didn't get it as much on the nose, but definitely on the palate.
But I definitely still get some of that kind of peanut type, in an earthy kind of profile on the palate as well. So, and that goes back to what you're saying, Carter, that these Russell's picks, just they can be. There's a wide gamut of what you're going to get with one, which is why it's so it's fun to go grab some because you don't know what you're going to get, and some of them come out to be extremely stellar.
That's what I love about them. I mean, single barrels in general.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, because when we did the podcast with Ernie and tasted through several different warehouses, it was amazing the different flavor profiles.
Yeah.
There were Russells.
Yes,
Yeah.
Russell's.
we had like 3 or 4 out that we just tasted through each one, and it's just amazing how different they can be, which to me makes it fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets
Considering
old
that
to
it's-
drink the same thing every
that
time
it's
you
the
get a
same
bottle.
distillate.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And
Yeah.
I've actually heard that if you go do the pick, and I've never done a pick at Wild Turkey before, but if you go do a pick, a lot of times that Eddie Russell will be there with you selecting the barrels. So
I've heard that, and to me, that would be pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be intimidating.
Because
Right.
here's the other thing I've heard, and I don't know if it's true. It's just, again, unconfirmed report, right? Called the rumor. That when he's there, he knows you're coming in. When he's sitting in and kind of watching you guys do your pick, it's because he's already identified or knows the barrels that have been selected for your group. He's tasted through them, and he goes, they should be picking this one. And so he wants to come in and go, who do we have here? Do they know what they're,
Yeah.
he's kind of grading you.
Oh,
And I'm like,
yeah.
man, that's a lot of pressure.
That's cool though. I mean,
Yeah.
It is
that's
cool.
exciting. That experience.
Because I would hear the same thing about Al Young at Four Roses.
Yeah.
That he would taste through, and if there was an OESO in the batch, you had better be picking it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Well, these guys did a good job on that.
I don't know. It was okay. I sold mine on secondary.
now, I heard they go for like $350
Rumor has it.
Rumor has it.
and
That
a
was
quick
that,
a quick ban.
Yeah, that's right.
That was that fake Facebook you made, and then you got rid of it after you did your
Oh,
secondary.
yeah.
Well, let's jump over to one of our favorite distillers, but unfortunately, everything they have in this category for the most part, we have 2 that we're going to talk about, but most everything else that we love from them in this price range, and they have a lot in this price range, problem is you can't find it, Buffalo Trace. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt and Carter, I'm going to let you guys take the stage because the 2 that we're going to talk about from them, you guys like quite a bit. You think are solid.
Yeah.
Great price points. They're, in that $25 to $35 range?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just standard Buffalo Trace product. Again, that kind of goes back to being one of the ones that I'll pull out, and it's every time I'm like, hey, I got these bottles that I make people try whenever they want to get into whiskey or try whiskey at my place, and it turns out to be 18 bottles, and they're all the intro ones, and then I kind of beef them up a little bit, but that's a really good one. I usually keep that kind of ready to go, and a lot of their store picks too are just usually pretty solid.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm with Buffalo Trace. Like, I just think it's just a straight, solid on the shelf product. I mean, you're in that $20 to $30 ish, range for a bottle. It's 90 proof, so it's palatable for a lot of people. It's good. I wouldn't say that. If you were to stack it up against, to me, an Old Forester product, I'd pick the Old Forester product generally.
Yeah.
Or if you were to stack it up against a turkey product, that's not my profile, but a lot of people would pick that.
Let me ask you this. Is it an entry-level bourbon for people? Or would you say, somebody who's an experienced drinker like you two, is this something you want to keep in the bar regularly?
The picks, I'd say, are
Okay.
are not entry level.
Yeah.
But you do pay more for picks too.
But you're still not hitting 60. I mean,
No,
you're still
no, you're in the
Very
30s,
rarely are
30s,
you even
30.
hitting
low-
$33.
Yeah.
you're
exactly.
still low on those.
True.
Which is funny because Buffalo Trace, I see a lot of picks of that bourbon. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to see more special reserve picks, but I haven't seen a lot of those. But I'm noticing that they're highly sought after when you get a pick
I think
of
it's
that.
geographical, right? So I here we see a lot of Buffalo Trace picks, but I have not seen many, if any, in stores of the special reserve picks. I think it just might be the location, in the country where you're
Yeah, because
at.
I've never seen a special reserve pick in our market.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you always see Buffalo Trace.
Right,
But
right.
But correct me if I'm wrong. I have heard that Buffalo Trace when you start doing picks that you can't jump in and do a foolproof pick, that they start you either with the Eagle Rare or Buffalo Trace. Is that
I think
correct?
Pretty much like from what I understand, to get into, if you're not an old established store that already has like a history of picks, it's like legacy. A lot of times you have to start with a 1792 pick, build up to a Buffalo Trace pick, and then you can get to an Eagle Rare Weller type of pick.
And I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to that, what you
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
later,
Yeah.
but man, I think that's fine.
But as far as like special reserve, I can find, and I know not everybody in the country can find special reserve.
Right.
Weller special reserve. Here in Houston, you find it pretty much everywhere.
Right.
And
$23 for a fifth.
for an entry level weeder,
Right.
It's kind of singular note to me,
Yep.
short finish, but it's a pleasant thing to drink.
But I think, like you said, being a weeder, it's an easy entry level bourbon for somebody just getting into bourbon. You
So
know, we
we
don't
s-
have the rye spice. It's a little smoother.
yeah.
We say this a lot on the show, and I'm going to say it just real quick because I know some people listen, and I've gotten feedback that I don't always know what we're talking about. When we say it's a weeder, typically the mash bill, the recipe to make a bourbon, is got to be 51% or more of corn. Typically it's more. The second grain is usually rye, and if it's not, if it's wheat, then we call the wheated bourbon. So when they're talking about the Weller line in general, all of the Weller, whether it's William LaRue, whether it's Foolproof, whether it's 107, any of those are wheated bourbons. So that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about when we say it's an entry-level weeder.
Yeah. And I believe they use the same mash bill, all the Wellers.
I think so.
It's the exact
Where
same.
it's at in the rick house and
age.
age and
I think it's the
watering it down.
Yeah, I think for even the Van Winkle line stuff, it uses the same mash bill as the Weller. I think.
Oh, it does. You're
It does.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
Antique 107 is basically the same
It's a
as
10-year. It's just
right.
less,
Yeah.
3 years less
That's why
age on it.
That's why the scientists around here want to make their poor man's pappy.
Right.
That's right.
Experiment.
Don't know
with
anything about that.
The
Never done that.
107 and,
And,
the
and they get
12,
their own labels
And
made
they get
for
their
it.
own label.
Yeah. That's
So it brings up a good point, Rob. You mentioned entry level, bourbons for people to drink, right? So anybody who's an experienced drinker who has, I don't want us to get make ourselves feel bad, but when you talk about people who have 100, 200, 300, 500 bottles of whiskey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. There's a lot of people that are at that level, but me personally, I keep all of those entry level bourbons in my stock because I like people to try them. There's nothing that I enjoy more than getting someone who has said, yeah, I drink whiskey, and they pull out the Crown Royal and Coke or Jack
Right.
and Coke, and I'm like, hey, try this. It's a fun experience for that. Do you guys do that too? Do you guys all like to keep all of those entry level bourbons in your or whiskeys? We'll just say whiskeys in your collection.
I
to
do.
introduce everybody.
I do because I've only been into this for a couple years. I was into wine heavily before getting into bourbon.
Stop saying was. I'm also into
Now
wine.
I'm
heavily.
now I'm also into bourbon.
There you go.
So, but I started off with the Special Reserve and Buffalo Trace, and
Then you got your first bottle of Eagle Rare, and you
Yeah.
just whoa.
yeah, and it was amazing tasting those side by side when you're first getting into it, and just the slight difference in proof there, and then the difference between the weeder and a rye spice between those. So yeah, it's but I definitely keep them in my arsenal.
Yeah.
Because like you said, everybody's not at the same point with their bourbon.
Right.
I usually have the 1.75 of those.
Well, of course, you got to have those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a great one to mix.
Yep.
It's a great one if you, that's the one I like of the two that you guys are talking. Buffalo Trace, I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to, get through some more of those and try them again or something. I don't know. But the Special Reserve, I tend to
Yeah.
lean towards that one for whatever reason.
Absolutely. You got to have a 175 of Wild Turkey 101,
Yeah.
a Special
Yeah.
Reserve,
Yeah.
and an Evan Williams.
I mean, I
bottle
can't
of
let the novices drink all my good stuff.
But my problem with friends, when you ask when friends come over, Oh man, that's nice. A little thunder. We'll take some rain.
Wow, that's getting serious.
Yeah.
Thunder.
My problem is that I got into the whiskey game like you a couple years ago, Dave.
Yep.
And I got into it through friends who were already in the whiskey game.
Same.
So you kind of come in, your entry level is a little higher than
Right.
some other people. So now that I'm friends with these people, it seems like all my friends in the whiskey world are established drinkers. So if I pulled out a Weller Special Reserve for somebody, if I brought that tonight for our dinner later, I mean, people would be like, what the hell are you
No,
doing?
Rob, we would
Amateur.
not. We would be thinking it's such a
Great.
great experience
That's
to
right.
get together
Nice
and
to go
share
back,
good food.
back in time a little bit.
Did you see
Hey,
what that amateur brought?
First off, that would be a great night that we decide where, no, instead of all the stuff that we normally bring, we don't. Let's bring 101, Special Reserve, Buffalo Trace.
I agree.
I
even
like
some,
this
Ezra
idea.
Did you see
Brooks,
my
know,
thing I
mean,
said
but
on there
Yeah.
about
let's
a
bring
themed
all
whiskey?
the
You know, whether all
yes.
barrel proofs or all from
and
one
entry
distiller.
level bourbon, dinner night, bourbon night.
But talking about Buffalo Trace, we will tell people, as far as price, their prices are fantastic. You talk about Eagle Rare, whether it be Blanton's, Rock Hill Farms. What's the President's one I'm thinking about?
Hancock's
Hancock.
Reserve.
Hancock, thank you.
Yeah, Elmer T.
Elmer T. All of those are less than $40 a piece. Or no, Blanton's is about 55, right?
Yeah.
50 to
Yep.
55.
Yeah.
But the other ones are all, but Eagle Rare's 29 to
Right. For
32
10
bucks.
year age stated bourbon.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Now, most people
Hancock-
outgrow it after drinking it
Yeah.
for a little bit, but
Right.
it's still very, very good bourbon that has the age statement that, typically you don't really see much anymore,
Yeah.
especially
Yep.
for $30.
So, we don't talk about that one a lot because you can't find that product. It's just never on the shelf. But we're just going to tell you, if you see those, Hancock, the Rock Hill Farms, the
Elmer T.
Blanton's,
Lee.
Elmer T. Lee.
E.H. Taylor.
Buy it.
E.H.
Yeah.
E.H. Taylor.
Yep.
Buy it.
Yeah, you
Yep.
can't
Don't
go
walk
wrong
past
with
it.
those as long as it's retail.
Right.
I mean, there are issues where you might find it in a store and it's not quite
Right.
at the suggested retail.
Because you're right, E.H. Taylor goes in there too. That's $33 usually out the door.
Yeah, for the
and that's
small
small
batch.
batches. Yeah, it's fantastic, 100 proof.
That-
So,
Yep.
bottled in bond.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Buffalo Trace is definitely the masters of marketing.
Yes.
Everything is allocated.
But is that intentional, or are they really that low production? Because they're amping up production to try to get more product on the shelves. I don't know where the truth lies.
I don't know where the truth lies either, but I have an idea.
We can all speculate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Because
It's-
there's enough of it. When it hits, it's everywhere.
Absolutely. And I think, but with Buffalo Trace or Stitzelweller, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely regional because you see in the Midwest, Ohio has tons and tons of antique 107. Texas, tons and tons of Special Reserve.
Yeah.
Up in the Northwest, sorry.
Eagle Rare everywhere.
You see Eagle Rare,
Sitting on the
Blanton
shelf.
sitting on the shelf.
Southeast kind of gets doesn't really get much
They
love.
don't get much love.
My brother lives in Florida, and I'm always showing him pictures and this thing. He can't find Special Reserve or barely even Buffalo Trace anywhere.
Do you sell it to him secondary?
No, of course not. No.
Yeah, but
Bro, I can buy it for you, but it cost me 70
cost
down
me-
here.
yeah, but 2 years ago when people started saying the Special Reserve was going to be allocated, I just shook my head and said,
Yeah.
"You're crazy."
Yeah.
And now practically every store you go into, except for WB Liquor,
Yeah.
it's one bottle per customer.
Right.
It's like, come on.
It's silly.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I can say from back home, Buffalo Trace. I'm from Alabama originally, and Buffalo Trace is actually hard to find on the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Southeast. It
You're
really
talking about
is.
the standard Buffalo
Yes.
Trace bourbon,
Same thing in Florida. It's
Yeah.
which we see
Buffalo Trace bourbon.
in every shop you
store.
go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
Wow.
thing with Special Reserve.
That's funny.
Buffalo
It's wild.
Trace, my brother's like, yeah, I can find it every now and again. But Special Reserve, he's like, I've seen it once.
Wow.
And it was way above what you should be
I
paying for
mean,
it.
it is a special reserve.
It's
That's
very
right.
special.
Special 4 to 6 year bourbon.
But we talked about that mash bill too, mentioning Blanton's and all of those. But also, if you saw on a shelf, you mentioned 107, Antique 107, a foolproof, a Weller 12, still $32, $35.
Yep.
Buy them. I mean, if you-
No, you should
Yeah.
not buy them.
Leave 'em and
yeah,
tell
leave
me.
them because they're not good.
but we just know you don't typically see that on the shelf.
Right.
Right.
That's the sad thing about. I mean, it also makes it fun. We get to chase that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's part of the game we like
That's
to
part
play.
of the game. And like you said, the pricing is excellent. in Buffalo Trace's line, practically everything they have is under $50.
Yeah, if you can get it for retail, it's fantastic stuff. Really good. Just hard to find it.
Yep.
But on to things that we know you can find on the shelf. I don't think, I'm a huge Heaven Hill fan. And to me, in this category, I'm trying to think what's in that $30 to $60 range.
Well,
the rye jumps out at me right away, which is one of my favorites.
Pikesville.
The Pikesville.
Yeah.
You've also got a recent release, the Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond, which
but
used
again,
to be
getting-
6-year age stated and under $20.
Yeah.
Now it's 7-year age stated
And 40.
and $40.
Yeah, $40.
But finding it,
Yeah, it is kind of difficult to
yeah,
find.
I'm trying to think what they have that's on the shelf besides Pikesville.
I mean, other than the Elijah Craig,
Yeah.
Right.
Which now you're getting down to $28, $29.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that something that's always on the shelf from Heaven Hill is Evan Williams Bottled in Bond.
And
Yeah.
there's,
And,
yep.
but we already did an
We
episode
already
on
did
the
that,
single
so-
barrel, that's on the borderline. That's
That's
about
$27.
$28. So it might be 30 in some parts of the country.
Right.
I wouldn't have thought with Heaven Hill there's this gap of product for them in that $30 to $60 range, but as we talked about it, there's a gap there.
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Right.
Agreed, because they have so many products.
You guys
Um,
tried-
Baker's is hard to find. That's a Jim Beam product.
Yeah, the which one's is it the 7 years, the standard one? I feel like I see that pretty frequently.
The
Well,
Bottled
Baker-
and Bond, the Heaven Hill.
No, I was thinking about the Bakers.
I'm thinking
but-
that's a
Oh,
Jim Beam product.
that's a
though.
Jim
Oh, is it Jim B?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Trying to think
Yeah,
Heaven Hill. I don't remember
You've got
anything.
Elijah Craig,
Yeah.
but it jumps from the Elijah Craig small batch in the $20,
Yeah.
$27 range
It's a barrel proof.
to the barrel proof,
Right.
which is
If you can find it,
55
but
to 60,
first
but
off,
you can't find it.
That is
Right.
the best. That is the best value. One of the best
Absolutely,
values
for a
of-
barrel
of-
proof.
Yes, I love that, and they're almost always so good.
Yes.
Every release that they have.
As much as I like Heaven Hill, I'm just surprised because you're right. The Evan Williams Bottled and Bond,
Yep.
100 proof. The Evan Williams single barrel.
I love that
Fantastic.
bottle. It's
Yeah,
a great
it's
bottle.
Great
Yeah.
bottle.
Yep.
But it's still less than $30.
Right.
From that 30 to 60, I feel like am I
They're-
missing
we're
something?
I think we're
Yeah.
forgetting
I
something.
think we are
There's-
too.
there's-
If I was
there's
standing
gotta
on
be
a
something.
bourbon aisle,
Yeah.
say, oh, there's a Heaven Hill
you go,
product.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Gosh darn, I don't know. I just don't know.
I can't think of anything either. And I can't imagine they wouldn't have something in that shelf level because it's just it's a sweet spot for a lot of bourbon guys.
No, really the only one I can, off the top of my head, is the Pikesville Rye. That's
So let's talk about that.
somewhere between $37 and $50,
Yeah.
depending on store.
And you can find that. I will say that one, you might have to look a little bit. We're in Houston. We have two major players in Houston as far as big liquor wine stores, which are Total Wine and Specs. And I can tell you, I had to go buy a new bottle of that, and they don't carry it. The ones out in Katy, I went to 3 Specs and the Total Wine out there, none of them carry it. And I just popped in to see what their price was because I went and bought it from a guy that I know has it, which was Longhorn Liquor, but he's at 50, which I'll pay 50.
Yeah.
It's a great bottle.
the
But you
last
can
bottle-
find it for 40 at a lot of places.
Yes, the last bottle I bought, which is sitting here on the table, I got at the Total Wine in Sugarland for $37.99.
Has that always been Heaven Hill?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And to me, it's a fantastic rye. I mean,
Yes.
one of my favorites.
It's excellent. I mean, up until the rare breed came out, that was my favorite. Well, one of my favorite on the shelf ryes. Oh, here comes
There's
the
the
train.
choo-choo
Rob,
train.
stop hitting the train soundboard.
Yeah.
I know you're hitting the
Crazy.
Like a locomotive.
yeah, right. Now I'm going to start saying things that you need to hit the soundboard for throughout the rest of this.
Yeah, I'm literally on the Heaven Hill Distillery page right now looking because I'm like,
Because you
what
know
do I-
we've missed
Hey,
something.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you're doing that. And while you're doing that, we're going to pop back to Heaven Hill. I mean, Pikeville, I guess, is all we have in this range that we love that we can find pretty regularly on the shelf. I mean, it's the one you might have to look a little bit, but for the most part,
Yeah.
you go to 2 or 3 places, you'll run into it.
Well, here's one that just showed up today in the Houston market that Matt was nice enough to bring was the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel.
Yeah, but here's the question. What'd you pay for that?
$50.
$50.
Yeah. No,
man.
it's
Yeah.
Okay.
$50 for that, and I would absolutely pay $50. You can. I mean, again, that's gonna be one that you're not gonna be able to find all the time, but
Right.
I'll pay $50 any day for that.
Yeah.
So-
if you see it, you should pick it up.
Here's my question.
Or you shouldn't.
We
I don't
talked
Or
to-
you should leave it for me so I can pick it
Yeah,
up.
call me.
We talked a little earlier about the rare breed rye, and we know that that's going to be a shelf on the shelf all the time.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard anything about the toasted? Is this coming out once
It's
a
a
year?
special. It's a special release.
Yeah.
It is a special. It's going to be just once a year.
I don't even know that it's once a year.
Yeah.
It's once in 2020.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
one of those when they're selling one per person, you take your wife and you buy two.
Absolutely.
I don't know who would do that.
Some jerks.
Make sure your wife is at least 2 spots in front of you or
Yes.
2 spots behind
yeah.
you. So.
How many did you get today?
Huh? I got one, and then my wife Taylor got one.
But that
Here, but you know what? I do the same thing, but the difference is your wife drinks bourbon.
Taylor,
she loves bourbon.
And that's what I can sleep at night. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I do too. I sleep at night dreaming about the bottle my wife got for me.
Yeah.
No, yeah, she drinks as much, or not more, but she drinks as much as I do. So
Yeah.
we both
Yeah.
enjoy and she wasn't ever like that. So it was kind of I got into it probably about 6 years ago, and since then she kind of was at first.
I think it's great.
First thing she did, she tried some Buffalo Trace, or she tried some Eagle Rare or whatever, and she's like, oh, I don't like that, it's gross, and then just slowly she kept going, and next thing you know, now she's drinking Elijah Craig Barrel Proof with me, and we're going through a good bit.
or a Michter's 10-year
me-
rye.
I was going to tell you,
Exactly. Yep.
my wife tried that and went.
That
Were
was
you there?
I was there.
Did she like it?
That was
loves it.
dangerous.
Really?
Yeah. She's like, oh,
Ooh, I like this
I'll be
one.
drinking this
That's
one.
one
when
of the
I have.
only thing. I mean, what else does she like? Is there anything else that she?
That's the only thing
that's
I've
it.
ever seen her take multiple sips of.
And now the other night she's like, pour me a little of that one.
Really?
I'm like, well, honey, I don't want
Honey.
to
Yeah.
keep pouring
Honey,
you that
can you
one.
drink this one instead?
I got this problem too. You my
do.
wife really likes the Michter's Barrel Strength Rye, the toasted barrel, and we have a quarter of a bottle left, and she's probably consumed about more than half of that.
I didn't realize that was toasted. I thought it was just the barrel strength.
No, I
It's
have
the
I have
toasted.
the toasted as well.
Is that better than the barrel strength, the standard barrel strength though?
It's one of the
Or is it
best.
kinda
It's one of
depends?
the best ryes I've ever had.
Really?
It's
Can I try some?
fantastic.
I'll have to fight you on it for that one.
Yeah. Ask her. She bought that for me for Christmas, and it became her present.
Yeah, right.
So you couldn't find anything else from Heaven Hill.
So I did see the McKenna 10.
Oh, that's right.
Again,
You
it
can't
got
find
allocated.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
find it anymore.
It used to be McKenna 10 used to be one of those bottles. It was like $30,
Less than that,
or
even.
less,
Yeah.
and you could find it everywhere. And now, like, I think they upped the price.
It's like 40, almost
40.
$40, just
Yeah.
under.
And then you can't find it a lot of times.
And I'll be honest, just under $40, I don't have a problem with that.
No.
Yeah.
10-year, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Just can't find it.
No.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because about 2 years ago, when I was first getting into bourbon, was at Total Wine, talking with the guys for some recommendations. I think that day I ended up buying a Weller Special Reserve. But he pointed on the bottom shelf to a McKenna 10-year and said, people always think that this is Scotch because it's called McKenna.
Yeah.
And he said, that's a good one. You ought to try it. Well, about a week and a half later, it won best.
It was San Francisco,
at
right?
San Francisco
Yeah.
Spirit, World Spirit. Of course, I went back. Gone.
Yeah.
Start seeing that little gold label tag on there, and,
Right.
and next thing you know,
And
you
at the
don't see
time,
them
I think it
anymore.
was $27.99 for that. And
That's
I mean, I'm sure it's good stuff, but I always laugh because it's a single barrel.
yep,
They're hit
So
or miss.
you're not getting the barrel that
won.
right.
They're definitely hit or miss. I've had some really, really good bottles, and then I've had some that I'm just, I'm trying to get rid of. I'm about to mix with Coke. I mean, honestly,
We can
Oh,
say
yeah.
that about Blanton's and say that about.
I could definitely say that about Bland.
Yeah.
So-
I laugh at the one Daryl brought.
Yes.
It was a store pick from,
I don't even know where it was from.
I don't remember either, but I think it was Specs, wasn't it? Sorry, Specs. It was Specs. It was awful.
It was smoky. Like, it was almost like mesquite. I
yeah,
don't know.
very odd.
Yeah, very funky profile.
Yeah, but it's amazing that a huge distiller like Heaven Hill doesn't have a whole lot of product between the $30 and $60 range.
You think they'd have something to compete with all of the other,
It's a big market
Right,
there.
market,
That's
yeah.
a sweet spot. People feel like they're getting really good quality
Right.
Right.
at a good value for that price.
Funny thing is, 5 years ago, that sweet spot was 25 to 35, and now it's
Right.
40 to 50,
Yeah.
and 2 years from now, it's going to be 60 to 80.
I hope not, Matt.
Yeah, well, that's why.
I mean,
have to
they
start moving on to other spirits.
Yep.
they do have mellow corn.
Hey,
That comes in at a whopping $9.
I was
Yeah.
going to say 11. Is it 9? Okay.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I mean, even looking at their profile here, I mean,
pretty soon it's gonna be food, wine, and rum in your own backyard.
you have you have all the
2004
Craig's.
Oh yeah, that's already out because that's already going
Foursquare.
Up. Everyone's already on the
Yeah.
Foursquare now too.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
it'll be tequila or something.
All right, next distiller, I'm a huge fan. They do so many different products. They're just kind of like 180 degrees of Heaven Hill in this category. Jim Beam.
Yeah,
We talked
solid.
about Booker's earlier. I mean, I'm a
Booker's
fan.
might be a little bit out of that price
Yeah,
range.
right,
Yep.
right.
But Baker's is
got-
in there.
Yeah.
Bakers,
You
Knob
got-
Creek.
So let me put out there because a lot of people, and this is what got actually, I started with the Buffalo Trace, the Special Reserve, but one of the other ones I started with was Basil Hayden, and or Basil Hayden, and I mean I love that. I loved that bottle when I was getting into it. Right, it's a little thin. It doesn't give you everything you want now, but I mean that was a really good whiskey, transition whiskey. Or bourbon to get me into the bourbon side. From
$33.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's great.
and it's all of them are 10 years or
Yeah.
older, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's,
Wait, the standard Basil Hayden?
yeah, I think so.
Oh.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
I
they
could
have
be
some-
wrong.
they have
Somebody
some
will
age
probably
on them. I
correct
think
me.
you're
But,
right.
Now, is the Basil Hayden a Jim Beam product?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basil, Booker's.
That's why I always say
Bakers.
get
and
the old
Yes,
granny.
it's all
anything with the B.
It's all the B's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
some reason, I was thinking Basil Hayden was
Other
Heaven-
than Knob
Heaven Hill,
Creek,
but-
but it's got that B on the
got
end.
the B
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
end,
the
yeah.
knob.
Yeah.
But let's jump into Knob Creek.
Sure. I mean, what can you say other than the 2020 marketing scheme of we're going to do away with the 15-year, 12 to 15-year picks? I mean, I love their stuff.
And now they're everywhere.
And then do a limited a release of a 15-year, per year that is 110. Isn't it $100? I think
Yeah,
it's like $100.
That 15-year, that red bottle?
yeah.
$90.
It's 90. Okay.
And
I don't buy
So
that.
after tax, you're at $100.
Either way,
Yeah.
it's not 40 to 50
No.
like you would have been.
I've
with the
never
Knob
bought
Creek
that
pick.
bottle. Have you bought it?
No.
Nope.
Because
I can't.
I walked by it when it first came out, and they had about 6 on the shelf, and they must have. That was the week that it hit the market, and I was like, Knob Creek 15 had the 12 next to it.
Right.
And it's like, passed it up. Have never seen it again on the shelf. But even then, $90 for.
Mike has it. Had it over at Longhorn, several of them.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't see it. I mean, first off, Knob Creek, and it's great. I do appreciate it, but it's not my personal flavor profile. A lot of the Beam stuff.
nuts.
other than the nuttiness you get. But I do like some of the Bookers, but that's because they're highly dependent. On the batch release.
Yep.
But the Basil Hayden doesn't really quite have that. You don't really get that super nutty type flavor. But anyway, with the Knob Creek, I'm not going to spend that much on a 15-year bottle when before 6 months
Yeah,
before
but-
you get a 14-year for $50, right? Isn't that how much the single barrels are going for?
$50.
$50.
And not
basically?
only that, the picks, the single barrel picks are 120 proof. The Knob
Yeah.
Creek 15, they bumped it back down to 100.
Is
just
it
like,
100? Yeah,
Just like
see.
the Knob Creek 12.
That's
and
why
the
I would never
standard
buy
9
that.
year.
When I can buy these Knob Creek store picks, or,
Yep.
I mean, if I'm going to buy 100 proof, I can buy a 9-year whiskey,
Yep.
which is their standard 9-year 100 proof, for $34.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
why am I?
It's called marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's got to be people who will buy it, and I guess we know better. But
Oh well, I mean, there are obviously people
Only
who
because we've
are-
made the mistake at one point or another.
Yeah. I mean, you can't find the 15s on the shelf hardly. You know, I mean, you can't find the 12s even. Really. I don't know. Brilliant marketing, I guess.
I've got a 12-year pick and a 15-year pick from Hocus Pocus, which are both fantastic.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing they have. They do their ryes. The Knob Creek ryes are fantastic.
I love them.
And they have the 100 proof rye, and then they have the 115 that you see on a lot of the store picks and things like that. So for me, Knob Creek, when you can do, they just have a variety of offers in that price range, as well as a lot of store picks that you can get from them. And then you jump into Baker's, and you mentioned Basil Hayden's. And is there anything else we're missing in that price range? I know they got Old Granddad, which is fantastic, but it's a lesser price range. But
I have to make a quick sidebar. Matt's over here like opening a bottle of Knob Creek.
Is that what you call that?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's opening.
And now I'll give him a little bit of credit. Knob Creek has about the crappiest wax in the wax games.
It's like when they cut money, they cut it on the wax.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Well, I mean, we're talking about Knob Creek, and we got a 14-year Total Wine pick that Matt brought
Yeah.
out.
$55? How would you pay for that?
$50.
$50?
Yeah.
You can't beat that. And the thing is, you can find those every day, all day. They're everywhere.
Well,
For now. They're gonna be
this
good.
one you probably can't find anymore. But yeah.
Well, let's just say 12 to 15 year
yeah.
on the shelf.
Yeah.
So I really, it's a little. All the Beam product is a bit nutty for me. But some of the Knob Creek picks are just absolutely fantastic.
Because I picked up two out in Katy. Dandy Liquor did a pick,
Yeah.
and it was 120 proof. Did you get one of those?
I did.
Yeah, I picked up two of those. Gave one to Daryl, but I mean, to me,
Thanks.
it was like 14 years, 8 months, something like that.
Yep,
For
almost 15.
$54. I mean,
Yep.
Those days are over, though. It's not going to be happening, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just
Sadly.
is it true, or are they just saying that to get us to go buy stuff because they got so much other stuff they got to get in the bottle and get out?
I think there has been like an edict that's like been
Yeah.
put out by Jim Beam that's like, yeah, we're not doing any greater than 9-year picks anymore.
Well, I mean, everyone. To be honest, can you blame them
No.
if people are buying their product and they know that they can charge $95 for a 15-year, or they can charge 75? I don't know what the 12 years less. It's what, $50 maybe, right? But they can charge that instead of charging $50 for a 14-year. You do what you got to do. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
like
Yep.
you.
Man,
And
this
people,
pick
if
is
people are willing to buy
Isn't
it,
that good?
Jeez.
Yeah, because
And-
in today's bourbon world, it's as popular as it has become. Just like the Japanese whiskeys, everybody. I mean, they went through everything that they had that was age stated because the demand has skyrocketed. So,
Yeah.
So I bought Yamazaki 12. Man, I've been probably in 2017 or end of 2017, maybe 2018. And it was like $75.
Wow.
And then I bought it the year after, probably 2018, 2019 for $90. And I think now it's like 110, 150. I mean,
Well, if you can get it for 110, I think you're doing good. I think it's like 130.
are
Yeah,
you retail?
I think so.
I
Oh
lucked
my
out
gosh,
earlier
yeah.
this year and got one at Specs for $99.
Okay.
I thought it was about 100, but I don't know. Maybe it
I
has
think
gone
I've
up.
seen them in the
other stores,
Yeah,
yeah.
mom and pop places. I'm sure at Total Wine or Specs, you're probably getting a little bit better price.
But I mean, even then, it used to be 75, and then it was 100 the
But
next
that-
year.
But that's gone the way with the age-stated bourbons and whiskeys. That
Yeah.
Weller Antique 107. It was 20. It was less than
$22.
Weller 12. It was
Yes.
$22, $23 when it was out. Now it's 42.
yeah.
Right.
So definitely for me, Knob Creek's one of my favorite. I mean, Knob Creek, Jim Beam, Knob Creek in the Jim Beam line is one of my favorites. I really am a big fan of from the lower end to the higher end stuff of Jim Beam. I think they do some great stuff, and in that $30 to $60 range, there's a lot to pick from, whether you want a rye or a bourbon, and you get that age on it, man. I mean,
Oh,
again,
yeah.
where are you going to get from a 9 to a 12-year-old bourbon from $35 to $55?
Oh, man.
I mean, that's great value.
So now, what about the new the now that they're doing Knob Creek 12 and it's $50, $55? Is that okay to you? Like, are you willing to spend that?
Heck yeah, 12-year-old bourbon for
So,
50, 55
and,
bucks.
and that's the same conversation you could have about Elijah Craig, barrel proof, 12-year, age stated, $60 typically,
Fine with
$55, which again to me is one of the most underrated
Yeah.
bourbons. I love it, but it's hard to find those age stated Eagle Rare 10-year. We talked about that. I mean, really they're starting to drop that off.
Because
but some of these
Kentucky
ones are
Owl
sticking.
bourbon 10-year is 139.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
That's
if
a
you're, if
different
you're
subject.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're not.
I think you're
Knob
lucky
Creek.
if you can find it because they're 10-year and 11-year, aren't they? Up like around 200.
The Ryes are.
Oh, the rise.
The
Okay.
Ryes are, but their bourbon is like 139.
No, that
Right.
well, the
10-year, and I'll take that 12-year.
Is it the
down
10
street
Absolutely.
for-
Is it 10-year though? The confiscated is the Kentucky Owl confiscated is like that 130, 140 price point. But is that 10 years?
I thought it was.
I'm not sure about the
I
confiscated.
think their bourbon is still like $200.
Oh, is it $200?
I think so.
Okay, I might be wrong on that.
Well, I
That's
like
not-
their rye a lot better than their bourbon.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
A 10-year rye
their
is different than a 10-year bourbon.
Their
Yeah.
first year, first batch, their batch one was really good. I mean, again, honestly, if you ask me if it was worth $200, I don't know if I'd even say it was worth $200. I'd rather try and hold out and find some other bottles, but it was very good. I did enjoy it.
And whereas all of it is sourced, so
Yeah.
I mean they're not distilling any of it.
Right.
So where are they sourcing it from? Is it
MGP?
MGP? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, that's a good
Yeah,
question.
But you would think
couldn't tell you
10, 11-year MGP product. I mean,
that you can get for 70 or 80 or
Correct.
60 or 30,
I mean,
depending
I
on
got
who
the-
you're buying it from,
That
right?
12-year Widow Jane was fantastic source from them.
yeah, $120.
No, $70.
Yeah.
Oh, the 14 is the one I'm thinking of. That's
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
100.
yeah.
That was from Matt over at
Yeah, well, I those Widow Janes are pretty good
like them.
generally speaking, but like that 14, that is a unique bottle.
Yeah.
like I mean,
it?
it's not like a daily sipper, but like
I haven't had that.
it's pretty unique.
Which one did you have? You had the 10-year.
I have the
Rob.
12.
It's got the
12.
12.
That was-
and I know where
that was
several
fantastic.
14s are on the shelf, but
Yeah.
I
Oh,
just,
wait. So what locations are those at?
We'll talk in a little
Let's
while.
talk about
I'm
the.
trying to decide if it's worth pulling the trigger on $130.
Well, another thing on the going back to the Knob Creek thing, I don't know if anybody's tried their cast strength rye, but their
Yes,
cast
I
strength.
have.
No, I haven't.
That is one of my
awesome.
favorites.
We're a little
Yes.
outside of the price range here.
It's not much.
$70.
Yeah.
65 to, yep.
So their cast strength rye is like killer.
Yes.
Up until the
Agreed.
point that I try some of the things like the Michter's barrel strength and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like that cast strength rye.
Really?
was up
Totally agree. I
Yes.
thought
up
it
there.
fantastic. I had it at
I'm
a
glad you said
restaurant in
something because that's close to that price range of 30 to 60. And,
Yeah, if
and
you
that
want to
one
bump it
is
a little bit, that's one to get.
out. Outstanding.
Awesome.
So you mentioned Michter's. Do you want to jump on that train? I know
Sure,
that's a
let's jump to Michter's. I think that's a good.
I know that's a very hit or miss with a lot of people.
It is hit or miss with a lot of people. I'm going to tell you, for me, I love
It's a hit
Michter's.
for me too.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think I've had their bourbon. So the three that I've had that I just enjoy greatly in that price range are their bourbon, their sour mash, and their regular rye, which is
Yeah.
all of them are right around that.
There's the
40
US
to-
one series, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The US
U-
one
I haven't
series.
had the American US one whiskey.
Oh,
That's
American
that
whiskey.
one's fantastic.
Yep.
good.
but
really
I've had
like it.
their bourbon, their rye, and their sour mash. I love
Right.
all three of them. man.
And
I
they're
think
all in that
fantastic.
40 perfect, right in the middle,
$40,
$40 price
$45
point.
range.
Price point.
And they're, to me, they're if I post the bourbon, people give me crap. Like, why are you drinking that? And I'm like, because it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
That's why.
I'm not sure why they're giving you crap because it's.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just
it's-
because
give me crap
it's
with
it's
that
just
one too,
because
man.
they're not distilling, right? So people just
Yeah,
want
but-
to give that crap. If it tastes good, it tastes good, right?
Yeah.
We have that
Do we know where they
conversation,
source from?
I think there has been some debate about it. I've heard. I don't know if this is true or not, that their ryes come from Old Forester, but I'm not sure. I'm not
So
sure.
that's not a bad place to get rye.
So Michter,
Well, that Old Forester rye is not bad for
That
$22. We've had that conversation too. I'm sure
Darn
you
good.
talked about it.
Yeah.
so Michter's doesn't distill any of their own.
So they used to, right? And then
They did.
They used to.
Like years ago, they used to,
Yeah.
but I think they are. Are they?
They're
doing-
about to, right?
I think they're distilling. I don't know.
Just don't have
most
any
of
ready
these-
for release.
Yeah. So these,
Because that's
I mean,
what I thought is that they were distilling
I'm not
again.
sure though.
maybe certain releases or certain batches, but I mean, we got this sour mash in front of us, and it's bottled, bottled by Michter's. So
Okay.
But if you knew, if it doesn't say who they source it from.
no,
Okay. If you knew it was MGP, I think people would be a lot more receptive to it. I think because they don't know where it comes from, it gives this cloud of
cares?
doubt.
Who
Yeah.
cares?
And I'm with
It
you, Matt.
tastes good.
If it tastes
Yeah.
good,
Yes,
drink
And,
it.
for all
if it
of
tastes
us,
good, it's QP, the quality price ratio.
That's
if it
exactly
meets
right.
that,
That's
if
what I
it
was
meets
gonna
that
say.
requirement for
Absolutely.
you and what your personal QPR is,
Yep.
drink it.
Yep.
Buy it.
I think people's problem, like a lot of times, is at least what I hear with like bourbon nerds is that, hey, okay, you've got a, I don't know what the proof is on Michter's bourbon. I think it's what, 90 or ish.
87.
Sour mash is 86.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so a lot of people would say, well, I mean, you could buy a Wild Turkey 101 for 20.
You buy two 12,
or like, like people say, why are you wasting your money on that? And honestly, like,
But I'm just going to say, under that philosophy, I wouldn't buy anything but Wild Turkey 101.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Why would you buy
Evan
Kentucky
Williams
Owl when
bottle.
you could buy 10 Wild Turkey 101? You know.
I mean,
Yeah.
just
Right.
the whole thing about this is to try different stuff, different expressions.
Yeah.
Different, you know.
That's
So,
why I mean the market. Yeah, it's a different kind of market, right, than other things that you look at in terms of simple economics. And people want different things, so there's enough room for all these different distillers or bottlers because they have different expressions. Because you might try that expression and you really like it versus something else. So it's you're not gonna just get Wild Turkey 101 all day, even though it's great and I'll drink it and I'll pour it for others and I'll do that. But yeah, I mean I want to have other things.
But I
everyone's
think
like
you
that.
were getting at Matt or Carter.
It's all right. We're Matt and Matt at this point. Yeah.
That proof doesn't necessarily drive how good something's going to taste.
Oh,
It doesn't have to be 115 proof. An 86 single barrel from Evan Williams, I think, is fantastic.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, and some of their single barrel picks are
Yeah.
fantastic. But like to me, like my sweet spot on bourbon, just what I tend to gravitate towards, is 100-ish proof. But that being said, like there's something nice about having a 90 proof bourbon. I mean, it doesn't have to be smack you in the face with all of these different like nuanced flavors, and that kind of stuff. It could be fairly complex, but maybe it's just slightly more subtle.
Right.
You know,
Or it's okay if it's one dimensional, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
you know what kind of profile you want, and you're okay with having something that's one dimensional or doesn't have a long finish. It's an easy drinker. I mean, it's okay to like lower proof things. So there's definitely this misconception where people are like,
Yeah.
once you're an expert, you can only drink barrel proof because
Yeah.
there's so many characters and notes to pick up from. Which is true
I think
for
that-
more of barrel proof versus lower proof, but the lower proof sometimes you want that just easygoing. That's a one note, one characteristic drink. I mean, it's okay.
It's to me, I always say it's like cooking a 5-course meal, or do I just want to make a sandwich and some chips tonight?
Right.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
sometimes a sandwich and some chips
sometimes-
just hits the
Hits
spot.
the spot.
Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
exactly.
And you're in the mood. And when you've been having 5-course meals for 5 days in a row,
You and Taylor know about that.
no, not as much as you all, but
Someday we'll catch up with you two.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get to one in just a few minutes that I think is, when we talk about a lower proof, one that you just can't beat. I don't think there's anything in the market that's better for it at the price and that proof and what you get in a bottle. But before we go there, let's talk about a distiller that I think is fantastic, and I'm a little late to the game on how good they actually are, which is Four Roses. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't have a lot of product on the shelf. I think maybe 4 bottles. Is that all they have? They have their little 80 proof.
Yellow
and they have
label.
small batch select, and their single barrel. Is there anything else on this one?
That's
small
That's
batch
it.
select now. But
Yeah, small batch select, single barrel, and they're 80 proof.
I think
Correct.
that's it.
Sorry.
That's it.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all. And honestly, before I kind of got into the bourbon thing, I mean, Four Roses. I mean, you think of the yellow label, you're like,
Yep.
I mean, this is just well
Right.
bourbon.
That's
Like,
at every bar
I-
as their well.
It
that
was
or
my
bullet.
exposure to it. I bought a bottle when we went to Vegas just to have in the hotel. Everybody was telling me how good Four Roses was, so I bought the little $24.
Yeah, and
The bottle, I left it in the hotel room. I was like, this is god awful. And I went and bought, I forgot what I bought, something else.
Yeah, I mean, for what it is, it's whatever, But until
It's a
you
good mixer.
yeah, until you try some of their other offerings, who would know if you were judging it off that bottle?
But
So,
small batch comes in at 32,
32, 33.
Yeah.
fantastic.
Small
love
batch
that bottle.
select,
Around 50.
around 50.
So I think we talked about this one of the more recent times we were kind of having that discussion about Four Roses. I like the small batch select. I think you actually explained to us because I had no idea in terms of every year they take 6 recipes?
Six
what
of their 10 recipes.
Yeah, 6 of the 10 recipes.
And so what I found out, a little bit more information on that, it's unclear whether they're going to change that every year. I hope they do. That
Yeah,
to me
that'd be
makes
cool.
sense
Right.
to do
Yeah.
that. But right now, what I understand is the small batch select is, I know it's 6 of the 10 recipes that they currently have that are blended into that
Right.
small batch select. To me, I hope they don't do it like their single barrel, where every year it's the OBSV.
Right.
On the
Yeah.
shelf. I would like it to change every year and go, okay, this year Brent picked these 6.
Yeah.
Next year it's these 6.
So what do you think? I mean, I haven't done a side by side. I've had this. I think I have both at home right now. I just haven't done a side by side. So that'd be an interesting thing. But from my memory, I don't think I thought that the small batch select was worth not quite, but almost double the price of what the small batch was. I really enjoyed the small batch. I think it's a great bottle.
What's the proof on the small batch?
I think they're both 90.
No, the small batch select is 103 or 104.
And the small batch is 90, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, from what I don't think they tasted or they felt like it felt that much hotter. Like I didn't feel like I was drinking 103.
No, I
proof,
wouldn't say that it felt like it was that much hotter. I think what you would expect is that it adds a little more depth of flavors to it. It's still definitely Four Roses.
Yeah.
A little more
Floral.
structured, a little more body to it.
Yep. But still floral. I mean,
So good to have, but in terms of having that bottle versus the small batch, but do you think it enhances that flavor profile by that much that's worth 55 to 33 or 35?
is anything worth it?
No, yeah, that's a good question, right? That's a personal question. Is it worth it to you?
Correct.
Is it worth it to you?
I think
you know?
jumping from the yellow label up to the small batch is
Absolutely.
absolutely worth it.
Right.
What you're saying is don't even bother with the yellow label.
I
Just
wouldn't.
jump in at the small batch.
Not unless you are a
Bartender.
cocktail, a mixer type person. If you're going to drink it straight out of a Glencairn or a rocks glass, I wouldn't bother with the yellow.
Yeah, the small batch is just. I mean, it's fantastic.
It's excellent.
I love the small
It's
batch.
excellent.
It goes back to the 38 bottles that I have that I introduce people. The list is going to keep growing, so eventually it's going to be 100 bottles. But that I introduce to people, small batch is one of them. You know, I always pull it out and say, "Hey, try this. What do you think?"
I personally think too. I mean, side note, the Four Roses small batch or small batch select. The bottle that it comes in. One of the coolest bottles.
Yeah.
On
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looks good on your bar.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
it's a nice looking bottle. I really like that one.
I'm still hoping to get one of those in the limited edition style. bottle.
Yeah.
Did you all sign up online?
No. Is there a sign up?
Okay, so between now,
Don't tell anybody.
let's see if they listen.
Yeah, right.
Between now and September 9th, if you go to their website, they're doing their special. Brent got Distiller of the Year, so they're doing a special small batch select release, a special thing, and you put your email and everything in, and they're going to have a drawing on September 19th and announce so many
X amount of
winners that
people,
get a
yeah.
bottle.
So you and Sandra are both signed up because she loves
bourbon.
Yeah, so does Taylor.
yeah.
We're gonna have
Yana,
Yana as well.
I mean, what idiot would marry a woman that doesn't like
right?
bourbon?
Oh, I know, right?
Jeez.
It's super weird.
So isn't there a history behind Four Roses in that they kind of did didn't they do a rebranding years back before like essentially at one point they were either almost bankrupt or they were people weren't buying their product.
I
as
know.
much. Is there? I don't know.
When,
I don't
when
know
you
the
got
story,
into
but I
the
feel like-
70s,
Yeah.
all that white clear liquor gins and all that became popular. I know Four Roses was much like Wild Turkey and took advantage of a market that said, hey, we still want that bourbon from America, and that was Japan.
Yeah.
And Four Roses lived over there.
Really?
And we're highly successful in that market.
And then as soon as it came
And
back
then
around,
bourbon started hitting back here, so it wasn't until maybe the mid to late 90s that they said, we need to come back home,
Right.
and we now have some consumers that want our product. And,
They're owned by Kirin Beer, I think.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Four
I think
Roses
they are.
is. So I mean, I may be wrong. but I
And,
think so.
people think they have a shorter history in the history of bourbon because they weren't so well known in the marketplace. But they've been around since the 1800s.
Who?
Oh yeah,
Four Roses.
Four Roses, yeah.
Well, if you look,
Started in your neck of the woods, Alabama.
did they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, it's Alabama. They can't make bourbon, right?
And they changed all the laws, and they finally had to make the
Clyde Mays, Alabama style.
And I think it's Alabama, but I know it's one of those southern states
Yeah.
is where they started before they finally made their way up to Kentucky
That's
because
interesting.
of people pushing them out and changing the laws and all that kind of stuff.
I know that like one of the this. I mean, you've probably seen like the iconic image like World War II, like where the sailor comes home and
Oh, yeah.
in the parade and
girl's
in Times
there.
Square.
And
Yeah.
the Four
He's
Roses ad up on
giving
the-
her a kiss and
Yep.
stuff, and the Four Roses ad is right in the background.
Really?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Okay, no,
wow.
I know exactly what you're
What you're
talking
talking
about
about,
as
yeah.
far as the,
Yep.
the sailor.
And-
I did not ever catch that.
Yeah, the Four Roses ad is on the
You
bill.
knew that?
Wow.
I did know that.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I want to go look for that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So
Yeah, they've been around a long time.
this is some bourbon trivia knowledge. So if we're ever at a bourbon trivia night, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah.
you know?
Which distiller?
Yeah, right.
So let's jump back into Four Roses. What makes it so fun, and what makes it fun for me? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to embarrassingly tell you. I've never had small batch or small batch select. Never.
Well, that's going to be part of our entry level. At least small
Never
batch will be
had
part
it.
of our entry level night.
You've
And
never
I
had
love
it.
Four
Wow.
Roses because of I love the single barrel.
Do you have any?
I don't.
Not right now?
I
Oh.
don't.
See? You don't like it either.
No, I recently killed my small batch select bottle a couple days ago.
So I haven't pulled the trigger on it. I need to. I just always kind of go back to these single barrels. And I know every one you get on the shelf at the store is just a standard OBSV. But for people listening that may not know, they have 10 recipes like we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do a pick, like you're getting ready to go do, Carter, which is going to be really cool for you.
Oh yeah.
Carter's getting ready to go to Kentucky to pick a barrel from Four Roses.
You
Are
better
you
pick
doing
that
the,
OESO.
Are you
man.
doing the Ryans?
Yeah, I am. I am. So
I'll cut that out. We don't like to say names on here, dude.
Okay.
No plugs.
No plugs.
No, I'm kidding.
Except for the supper club.
I thought we-
supper club night. We'll get that.
Well, that's not-
that's
that's
a
not-
shameless plug. We're
I
good.
thought we plugged Longhorn all the time. Longhorn.
We know
Longhorn.
Mike. I know Mike.
they're sponsors. It's okay.
I don't know Bo. I know Jay at Dandy. I don't know Bo. No, I'm just kidding. Bo's a good guy.
Gotcha.
He tries to do a really good job of making sure everybody has a fair opportunity to get some good bottles
Right.
over there. So Bo's good. I'm just kidding. But anyway, Four Roses single barrel, when you heard us talking about recipes, there's 10 recipes. Whenever you go to the store and you see that single barrel, it's always OBSV. But when you go like Matt is this week, Carter is this week, you get to pick a barrel. So they're going to bring it out blind to you. You get to taste through 6 to maybe 10 barrels.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see what's out there. They kind of, I guess, I've gone through the experience once, but yeah, I think they just roll out what they roll out, and it could be.
I want to cut you off there because you did go through it once, and you hit a freaking grand slam.
You better pick that
So,
OESO again.
I mean,
That's
if you
right.
come back with an OBSQ, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to pick whatever's
Your
there are
personal
other
preference.
people that are
We're
in the
just
group,
kidding.
but I'm going to pick
So
whatever's best.
what you're saying is you have an out.
Oh yeah.
There's other people in the
Oh,
group.
yeah,
I didn't want
I was
that
totally
one.
against that.
Those fools picked that. I didn't want it. I was the only one.
Yeah.
No, but it's pretty cool because they'll roll out 6 to 10 barrels, and maybe they're the same recipe, maybe they're not. I think typically I've heard they try to give you different recipes so you can get some different profiles. You don't want the same profile.
It was funny though when we did that pick last year. There was such a clear winner. It wasn't even like close. Everybody
Wasn't even discussion.
So
Nobody even had
did
talk
you guys all agree on that pick? Like,
we
did
did.
everybody
We did.
was.
Yeah, I think. We had it narrowed down to about 3 that we liked.
out of. Do you have 8
I
then?
think we had 8. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But we narrowed it down to 3. But there was one of the 3 that was just heads and tails above the other one.
Clear winner.
The others, yeah. Clear winner. So, and when they turn the barrel around, because, part of the process is they
keep the barrel head away from you, so you don't.
You are
It's
not
blind.
influenced by the recipe or anything like that.
Wow.
Because a lot of people know the recipes.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. They want you to do it completely blind, and when they turned the barrel around, we were like, well, of course this is the one that won.
OESO. How could it
Yeah,
not?
so-
Yeah, so that was really cool. But
So that's a cool thing. But when people like you do that, that's the only way for us who like Four Roses to get those single barrel expressions of those recipes.
Yeah.
You have to get it as a pick from a store, from a group, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you end up with someone's, face on it, and you just got to deal with that. But you drink it anyway.
Some people have a big head.
Yeah.
Just kind of full of themselves.
Yeah.
I didn't think you drank any of those. I thought you flipped them all.
So I
50
asked
pop.
I asked the guy that we're talking about in the group that we're in if we could do an admin barrel pick, and could we have our heads on the sticker as well, because his is always on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was brought to my attention that we could. His would be the big head holding a glass, and the ice cubes. We could have our little heads on each ice cube in the glass.
Wow. All right.
That was a great. I was like, I'll take it. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that
Got to
was
start
pretty funny.
somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a cube.
On our way to fandom.
So to me, what makes Four Roses so fun is trying to collect, all 10 different recipes
Yeah.
that are single barrel expressions of that recipe instead of being blended into that small batch.
So you
selector.
have all 10,
I
right?
just recently got all 10. So that's an upcoming show is going to be Four Roses. It'll be 2 parts because I think trying to taste through 10 might wear out the palate.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. See how we think.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I was about to say,
So-
I'll,
As long as they're tier 6.
yeah. Tier 6 or whatever, get
All
out.
right, Carter won't be there. Yeah, but that's going to be an upcoming show is where we'll taste through all 10 recipes and see what we think about those and see if we have a favorite or whatever. We'll just it'll be fun. I think.
That's cool.
Yeah, talk
Very
about them a little
cool.
bit.
I'd love to do that.
Yep.
So Four Roses is definitely one that I think everybody can go out and find on the shelf, but look for those store picks. That's what you want to find.
Oh, yeah.
And that's slightly out of the 30 to 60 price point. You're like probably 65 to 70.
That's a great point. You're
Yeah,
right.
but just wanted to let everyone
you're
know.
more in that 70 price.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
start getting into the picks of those.
And if
you're
they're
right.
good
Yep.
picks, you might have to buy something. I don't know.
And it all depends if they're the single barrel strength. Those are in the $70 to $80 range, but they do have the single barrel 100 proof.
They have single barrel 100 proof picks? Oh, I don't know if I've
They
seen
do.
that.
They
Yeah, I
do.
haven't seen
I've
those much.
those
And
those
those-
have been done.
And those are I've got one in my collection at home.
Was it good? I mean, obviously it was good, I'm sure, but I mean, it was.
Yes, when I bought it, I thought it was a.
Why haven't we had that at a bottle share? I want to throw that out there.
I didn't realize.
Yeah,
how
come
fancy
on.
Yeah,
it
come on,
was.
dude.
What the hell, dude?
I didn't know how special it was. Now I do. So now you definitely won't get it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you don't have to share it with us. Not like you like us or anything.
No, but the single barrel, non-barrel strength that are bottled at 100 proof, those are definitely in the price range of 30 to 60.
Right.
I think I paid $45 for it.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, now we're going on to Carter's. Might be you and Matt's favorite live-in distiller for 3 or 4 expressions you can get on the bottle.
It might be.
Yeah.
The distiller is
Old
Forester.
Forester. Yeah.
that's
Let's do that
Brown
synchronized.
Brown Foreman?
We should have harmonized
Yeah,
there.
that's
right.
Let's get
Yeah.
some music going here.
I don't know what it is about this company, but I mean, Brown Foreman, Old Forester and Woodford.
Yes, yeah.
I know that they both use I have been told by their rep that they use the same yeast in both. The Woodford and the Old Forester expressions, but to me, it's hard to go wrong with their offerings. I mean, particularly the Old Forester Whiskey Rose series.
all 4 of those. Talk a little bit about
I
that.
mean-
Those are all
or
in the
this
price range.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or the single barrel that we're pouring a little bit of
Oh,
right
yeah,
now. It's
yeah.
a pretty good. Let's do a little plug.
Amateur hour.
Yeah, some amateur picked it, but it actually turned out pretty good.
Yeah. No, that's and their picking process is just first class too.
Was
And-
Daryl not on that?
Yeah, he was on that.
Yeah.
Where's his face?
How did his
Well,
picture
there's
not
a bunch
end
of
up on
chow
it?
chows on the
there's
back.
that was for we
that's,
volunteer for the Houston Chow Chow Connection, and we wanted to do a charity bottle for them, and so $5 of that bottle went to the rescue. So
I think
That's
great.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome.
it's really cool, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of this pick. I think we did a nice job on
It was
this one.
a really good pick.
Yeah, I poured
mean,
some.
it's-
You shared this a couple months ago when we had a share over here, and this is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
And again, it's one of those that you talked about. It's a 90 proof, but at that proof, it's got a lot going on.
It's got a lot going on. It's very fruit forward.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, which is most of those old Foresters. I mean, unless you get to the 1910, 1920, it's a little different. But I mean, the single, most of the single barrels are very fruit forward, and you get a lot of stuff out of it for 90 proof.
Oh yeah.
But I think with the Old Forester single barrel picks, that there is a vast discrepancy in what you get.
Yeah,
Because
just have a really bad one.
I have had some that are very bad.
Yes.
You had a bad one, or you were part of? No, you didn't pick that.
No. I have a bad one.
That was a recent one, right?
Yeah, yeah. I purchased one, and it was not great.
So it was a pick, though.
Yes.
Yeah. It was single barrel.
Yeah.
Single barrel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not barrel proof.
No, it's just the 90
Just 90 proof.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It just, I mean,
But again,
the
anytime you do a
problem
single
is-
barrel.
Right.
The problem is, this bottle right here, this one that has the Chow Chow sticker on the back, it's just Ryan's Taters. I mean, Matt picked and Daryl, and I mean, it's a very good bottle. There's a couple other Houston-based ones that have been fantastic.
Yeah, I want to give them credit. You
Yeah.
know. It's the Bourbon Hounds of Houston,
Yeah,
right?
Bourbon Hounds.
They have two that were fantastic.
Two,
Oh,
two
yeah.
of them that were amazing. I would put all three of those, up against each other. And I think
Yeah.
they'd all come out about the same. I mean, they were all very good picks. The problem is now once you set the bar that high, you start getting some other, picks. in
It
your-
better come in equal
exactly
or better.
Yeah. And that doesn't always happen. Right?
Yeah.
And are any of these Brown Foreman picks done at Brown Foreman, or are they all sent sample bottles to
No,
to choose from?
we did ours at Brown Foreman.
did?
At Old Forester.
Oh.
Down, it's so they're right on Whiskey Row
in Louisville.
and Louisville, and
This is good.
and like the pick process is so cool. I don't know that all of these barrel or the barrel that we picked was probably not aged in this rick house.
Yeah.
But I do think that they do have some that have been aging in there for a while.
It's good.
That's like honeydew melon or cantaloupe, some type of melon that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and when you talk about, this was $50, right? I think it was 50,
Yeah,
50 something
$50,
bucks. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
And can you
that's one of
find-
the best bottles you can get at $50 when you get a good single barrel pick.
Would you tell people to buy it off the shelf, just a single barrel, or would you say look for a pick? I mean, obviously a pick is always, but would you say if you don't see a pick, buy the single barrel? It's still high probability you're going to get something good.
I'd say like any of their offerings.
Or let me ask you this. Let me pose you this question since there's this hesitation here. Would you say if it's not a pick, jump from that to 1910 for roughly the same price?
I would
Yeah.
say I
Actually,
don't-
less. 1910 is
Like
is
$48,
less,
right? 46 bucks.
46.
like I'm not sure that they offer any non-pick single barrels. Old Forester. I think
didn't know that.
I think everything that's a single barrel is a pick.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that's the case.
I've never bought one. I've always lived in that Whiskey Row, so I've never bought a single barrel. And now they have one out that's a barrel proof, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know anything about that? Can you tell
just
us
started
something?
rolling out.
Is it picks as well?
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
all they
this
are.
year.
I think
That was
It's-
introduced in 2020.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and to be fair, that's why I think right now, if you go and you find some of these picks on the shelf, there's a chance that I don't know. I'm just saying, but it might be that they're moving some of their barrels at lower proof, as opposed to they're getting ready
To make room for
these
Makes
nice
sense.
big barrel proofs that they're rolling out as single barrels. So I've seen a couple of the bottles, the labels, it's the same kind of label, but instead of black, it's a little green. It's got like a light green to it, and I haven't had any yet. But
You may not find this because if you go into a lot of shops, they don't have a pick. You're not going to see this single barrel.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But if you do, buy it.
buy
But
it,
you're big, like
Yeah, in our
Dave was
market,
saying earlier, like our market specs or Total
Total
Wine.
Wine.
You'll find them
Always have
Regularly.
one.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
always have
always.
one.
I've
on the
never
shelf.
looked. I need to look for that.
Yeah.
Do you like their picks? I always get a little nervous when I get a big. Are they actually picking, or are they just taking something that they're sending to them and
know.
standing
Slapping
there,
it.
I
slapping their
was
label
just
on it?
talking
Right.
to someone about that yesterday, and I don't know the answer, but I'd be curious if it is where they've got people who are dedicated. If so, I want that job, right?
Yeah.
They're dedicated. They get samples sent into them. They just get to taste and be like, let's go with this guy,
Yeah.
or is it just, hey, here's your barrel, you're getting this one,
Slap it in. It's
Yeah.
your pick.
right?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that Specs actually does. They
Send
do,
somebody.
They do.
Yes.
They do have
Okay.
people who pick.
Nice.
because I've talked to some of the staff. Not that
Yep.
nothing against the staff, but sometimes they know what they're doing, and sometimes they don't.
Most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
I will say
Right.
I've had a very good specs Woodford Reserve double oaked pick. And that is one of those bottles where I actually like the standard double oaked, but the picks really stand out. Some of them are okay, and some of them are fantastic. And I've got a couple right now that are fantastic, and I've had a specs one that was up there. That were pretty good. So they definitely pick pretty well.
Well, let's jump into the two that we think, or at least I'm going to say I think, are the stars of what they put out, and that's the 1910 and the 1920.
Of the
To me-
Whiskey Row series.
Yeah. I shame on me again. I haven't had the other two, which I've heard are really good. There's one that's bottled in bond.
1897.
Yeah.
1897.
And what's the one? Is it 18?
Then there's that. I can't remember.
I
what the
honestly
other
don't know.
one is.
Yeah.
I've had the 97, 1910, 1920.
But these the 1910 and 1920, that 1910 is 93 proof, and you go again. Some people would go, 93 proof. What am I?
there's so much going on,
Oh my
especially
gosh.
93 proof.
One of my favorite bourbons of all time. Really,
Yeah, because that one is, like we talked about earlier with the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel, that is a finished bourbon.
Yeah.
So it was distilled and barreled in your typical charred American oak,
Yeah.
dumped, and then put into another barrel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but lightly toasted
Lightly
barrel.
toasted barrel.
And that whole series, when we talk about Whiskey Row, they're honoring different processes on
Correct.
each of these bourbons that were at some point in time what they did back then.
Correct.
Yeah.
'Cause- because
Even
the
though-
1920 is a prohibition style,
Yes.
which is a high rye style bourbon.
And they had one, is it the 1920, Dave, there, where it was supposed to be a collaboration from different distillers that made it because of Prohibition, made a bourbon. But I think the way they are doing it is they're pulling it from different warehouses to put it together to try to give that type of effect that it's
I
from.
think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Something like that.
Yep, that's beyond
But,
my knowledge.
These two, the 1910 at 93 proof, and then when you're ready to jump up to the 1920, which is 115 proof, they're drastically different.
Yes.
But both fantastic in their own.
And for the
Their own way.
scientists that make their 1915, it's
Yeah.
I got a bottle over there.
Do you have one made?
Is that a 50-50
right there.
blend?
Is it ready to go? or what?
60-40.
60-40 with,
60 on the higher?
Yeah.
with the 1920?
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the age time that we have, or Mary time? We'll
I
call
think
it,
we're
to
at
go?
about maybe a month.
Is it almost ready to go, or what?
It's almost ready to go. We might have to crack
Should we
that.
do a three-peat side by side?
Hey man,
10,
we got a
20?
lot of drinking to do.
I was gonna
later.
say,
That's
Yeah.
right. We got a wild night coming.
This young guy's all ready to go.
Right? But yeah, I mean, to me, you would be hard pressed to like really nitpick. You know,
or to
either
find
of
something that's
those.
better in that price range.
Yeah.
I mean, different profile. Everyone likes different stuff, but to try this and say this isn't good, and then to be able to say here's what's absolutely everybody would agree is better than this. It's very hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there are things, but
The only thing I want to make sure people know that maybe going, hey, I've never had those. Let me go try them. I'll do the 1910, then I'll go up to the 1920, a little more proof. Don't expect them to be similar, but
They are
totally different.
vastly
So
They are
don't,
completely
right.
different.
Yep.
don't expect to go, well, they're supposed to be 1920. It's in a line of a series that I'm supposed to kind of.
Correct.
No, they're totally different expressions of
Right.
bourbon.
Because that's the whole thing with the 4 bourbons in that Whiskey Row series. They are a tribute to different time frames.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897, 1920 is the Prohibition style, which is high rye.
What is 1910?
1910 is the double. It's basically
Old Fine
Old
Whiskey.
Fine Whiskey, which is a double oaked bourbon.
Yeah.
it's more oaky. It's sweet. It's got
It's
a lot
fantastic.
More,
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I think,
I don't
like
know.
all of us are drawing a total blank. I think it is 1890.
Is 1890 okay?
But it's the lower proof,
Yeah.
like 87 proof, something like that.
Anytime I have a friend that says, "Hey, I want a good bourbon to give as a gift for, whatever," in that $50 to $60 range, I go
I
right.
always
1910.
recommend the
Yeah.
1910.
Especially,
Always.
'cause, the 1910 is a safe bet because you don't know if that person is really big and they can
Yep.
enjoy that, right?
Right.
90
Whether
Because
they,
proof, it's easy
if
to
they're
Because I always-
experienced, they're still going to love that.
Oh,
bourbon.
absolutely.
Yep, because I always ask, what's your price point
Yeah.
and what's your proof point?
Right.
'Cause
Yeah.
some people, 115
What is
proof
proof?
is
And
way
if people say,
outside.
I don't know what that means,
What does
then you
proof
say,
mean?
okay, well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be fine right
you'll
here.
be fine with the 93. You'll be
1910
okay.
would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But So now, what are your thoughts? I've never had it, and it was supposedly a limited release, but I think it is a standard in the line now, and that's the Statesman.
I like it.
I've never had it. How
I
does
like
it
it.
compare to the Whiskey Row?
It's
10 or
not
the 15?
bad. It's not my favorite.
Is
but,
it 90 proof as well?
I think so.
I honestly don't know. It's been a while. It's
So
been a
that
couple
would be the
years.
shelf of this, since this is just a pick.
Yeah, it's out there. I want to say it reminded me more of the 1910 than like the 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's still it was a lot
far
thinner.
off.
It was
So-
a lot thinner.
So I'm just wondering if it's like their small batch version compared to the single barrel 90 proof.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think it was originally based off of that movie, right?
Yeah,
the
the
Statesman
Statesman.
movie
Oh.
that came out. Yeah,
It's
I must have missed that
95
one.
proof.
Oh,
Okay.
95. Okay.
95. Okay, yeah. So originally they produced it while the Statesman movie was coming out. I guess it was the second one, I think, or something in that line movies.
Okay.
Yeah. It's more of to me, more the gimmicky one.
Gimmicky.
Yeah,
Like
but
Long Branch?
It's still not.
With-
It's
with
still
Wild
not
Turkey?
bad.
It's not bad,
It's not
though.
bad, but if you're, I mean, the price point's about the same as your 1910, so you might as well get the 1910.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you guys are probably more familiar with Brown Foreman than I am. But to me, for them, I live in that price range. More than 30, less than 60 for these. Do they have something on the lower end?
Yeah, I actually really like the standard Old Forester 100 proof.
Okay.
And if you're thinking about it, like as a mixer for a cocktail, fantastic.
Okay.
You know,
And not only that, the Old Forester 100 proof rye,
the
rye,
100 proof
yes,
rye, it
23 bucks.
which is
I mean,
a barely rye. It's 50. I think it's 51% rye.
But that is
Yeah.
perfect for cocktails.
Absolutely
because
it
a lot
is.
of those cocktails say bourbon or rye, and it's the perfect
Okay.
mix.
But
right
it's
in
something
between.
that you can definitely drink neat
Yeah.
if you like.
Yeah,
It-
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And for $23,
Right.
I've got a decanter. We're at my house right now, but Carter's house. But there's a decanter right behind the
see
first
it.
one that is
Right next
full.
to your poor man's pappy.
That's right.
In 1915.
1915.
That is always full of Old Forester rye, no matter what.
really.
Really?
Yeah, because if I'm gonna make a cocktail, I make it out of Old Forester rye.
Yeah.
And a rye-based cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody wants to try a rye, that's the first one I give them.
Oh, nice.
That's definitely a good starting off point with a
Okay.
rye.
So let's go to the other end. Other than birthday bourbon, which everybody who knows high-end bourbons knows, that's their big put it on
Annual
a-
release.
Yeah,
it's celebrate.
What is it? Retail $150, $200?
Oh,
So 120
$90.
yeah.
It's
Retail?
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
90 to
retail.
100.
If you can find it, retail. It's like $90 to $100.
Is that all it is?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I don't know why I thought it was like 150 or something like that.
Nope.
Okay, other than that, do they have anything else higher end?
Yeah, they do. They've got the President's Choice.
Don't know that one.
Is that distillery only?
I think it's distillery only. And then they have the King of Kentucky.
Don't know that one either.
I didn't realize that was a Brown Foreman.
I think that's a Old Forester release.
So is Cream of Kentucky in that same?
No.
No.
No. King of Kentucky, though, is, I think it's 15-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And highly sought after.
Retail?
Around $200.
that's not bad. Okay.
But if you can find it, I think secondary rolls for about $1,100 a bottle.
Okay.
I've never tried it. I've heard nothing but good things. So I'd love to give it a go.
The presidential is definitely on my list to
Yeah.
but
obtain one of these days.
But of all the distilleries, I mean, that we've talked about so far, I mean, and this is my shameless plug for Old Forester and Brown Foreman. How many of the distilleries have we talked about? I don't know, half a dozen or more different bottles that we go, yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they all do great stuff. I'm just trying to see who has that, letting listeners know that they have a variety of low end in that 30 to 60, and then there's some of that high end. If you like this and you get into it and you say, what else can I chase that's a little bit higher up? That's just trying to let them know what that might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for what we've discussed so far, the Old Forester has an extremely broad profile of products that
Yeah.
you could.
Yeah, they're really good. Last one, Barton.
1792.
I'm a fan.
To me, I don't think he gets enough love. I think when you get into, I'm doing air quotes here, these bourbon groups.
Didn't foolproof win whiskey of the year.
Yeah. For whatever reason, you get into these Facebook groups about bourbon, and I don't know what the stigma is, but to me, 1792 is solid. I don't mind their small batch. I think it's a solid pour for $28, $30.
I think the small batch is the only one of that lineup that I'm okay. Well, for $30, I'd rather have something else. I'd rather just spend my money elsewhere.
Okay.
But when you talk about single barrel, Bourbon,
Foolproof.
Foolproof specifically, all of them are really good pours, and the Foolproof at $45. Like I said, I think we were talking about this earlier. I've had a lot of the, you got your Total Wine or your Specs or your, the bigger liquor stores in our area, at least here in Houston, where, however they pick it or not, you can go to Total Wine. Of the 3 Total Wines in the area that are near you, and you'll probably at least find one store that has that in stock. Mm-hmm. And it's a great bottle. I mean, I've never had a bad 1792 Foolproof pick, and I've had the regular 1792 Foolproof.
And I like the single barrel.
And single barrel is good too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all really good.
You were talking about bottles earlier, Carter. I think it's a cool bottle.
I like it. If they did a different top,
Yeah,
I'd like it
I
better.
agree. No, I agree.
If the
Yeah,
top were wood or something
Yeah,
a little
I do
more
agree.
fancy,
Well, it's,
but I think the bottle is very cool.
The bottle shape is cool. I agree with you guys on the top. What I like about it is you can look at the neck wrap and you know what it is based
Yep.
on the color of that
Yeah.
neck
Yep.
wrap. I love how they do that to differentiate, because the bottle shape's the same on Foolproof, single barrel,
Yep.
small batch, whatever. It's all the same. It's just the color of that neck wrap is going to tell you what you have in the
Yeah.
bottle.
This
Yep.
is
And
such
if you have-
terrific talk.
And if you
We're like,
if
I
you
love
have
the bottle on this one.
limited space, they stack very nicely on a shelf. They don't take up much shelf space. So.
Well, I mean, this is a topic that hits home when it comes to
It hits in the
Shelf
home
space.
because there's not enough shelf space in the home.
like Eagle Rare or like VTAC or
Yeah.
or Willet. Like the
Yeah, you
bottles
fit
are
so
so
many
tall.
bottles.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, what shelving do you have that could fit that? So like,
But when you do find a shelf that has them, you can fit so many of them in that. Like
Well,
it
that's
all
true.
fits. But
I mean,
yeah,
if you
there's-
have so many of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
You would have to obtain them first.
Yeah, I'm talking more like the Eagle Rare or the Willet
yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
you know?
E.H. Taylor.
Or H. Taylor,
H.
yeah.
Taylor,
yeah.
yeah.
but like, I don't know. I mean, Knob Creek, I could fit that on any shelf.
Right.
Like 1792, I could fit that on
Rare
any
breed,
shelf.
any
Right.
shelf.
Honestly,
Yeah.
everything that we see here on the table, and I'm sorry everyone who can't see, but Old Forester's probably the tallest bottle we have. Maybe this Michter's
Michter's 10.
It's out of the price point
Yeah, it's out of
discussion that we're talking about today. But everything else I think could fit on most shelves, but it's not like the Willets of the world.
Yeah, that Eagle Rare 1.75. Yeah. that doesn't fit on
Yeah, that one's
anybody's
not
shelf.
fitting.
That needs special space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of 1792. I mean,
Absolutely.
I agree.
I think you can find a lot of pics of things that people are doing with 1792, and I just think they're quality, man. I think you get a good product, and you're usually less than $50 for everything they offer. And to me, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
It's a quality pour for that price.
Yeah, because the bottled and bond does a lot of picks, and the
Foolproof.
foolproof does a lot of picks. I've never seen the single barrel pick
Yeah.
before.
I've got a couple
they
of them.
They do some, right? I think I've seen one or two.
Yeah, so I really like, and then they have their special releases, which are fantastic.
I haven't seen
Generally
those.
speaking,
Aged 12 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
12 year.
sweet wheat,
I've got a sweet
high
wheat
rye.
up there.
Right.
You know,
See,
Sweet
I've
wheat
had-
is good. I thought. I liked it.
I thought it was the worst
Really?
bourbon I ever tasted in my life.
Really?
Yeah. I thought it was god awful. I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
Well, I'll pack my bags.
If we
Yeah,
all
that's the thing
have
about
the
bourbon.
same
I'm glad
taste.
you like that, 'cause
Yeah.
you can buy the sweet wheat and leave the foolproof on the shelf. for me.
There you go. That ain't happening.
No, but you
I'll
really
take both.
did. You liked that.
I like the sweet wheat. The one
know,
I
I did
tried
too,
it once. I
actually.
liked it. Yeah.
I did it in a blind. We did an 18 bottle blind of semi-allocated stuff, and it was in there. Did you do that with us?
I did not.
Okay. And I graded it the lowest. I
Really?
mean, I thought it was the
Really?
nasty. I was like, what?
Did
in the
you also have
world?
the high rye or no? Or was it just the sweet wheat?
Just a sweet wheat.
Okay.
Oh man,
I liked it. I thought it was good.
I really like the I really like the sweet wheat. The high rye is kick butt.
Yeah.
But man, that the when they did that port finish,
Yes.
oh my
Yeah.
god.
Really?
That
I haven't had
was
that.
amazing.
Fantastic.
Is the blue label
Yeah,
blue top
like kind of
or the blue? Yeah, it was
bluish purple
Yeah,
or
bluish
something
purple,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And I'm always big enough to go, I'm willing to try it again. Again, maybe something I ate or maybe the mood or maybe Sandra was around. I don't know. But
Well, she was around because she drinks all the bourbon with you, right?
she's a bourbon hound.
Yeah.
Of Houston.
But I'll try it again, and see what I think. But that was just in a blind. And when I found out what it was, I was like, oh, stop looking
You
for
didn't
that
like it?
bottle.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's a nice little spread of bottles that we've had here to talk about and then B to drink on. So
Oh, yeah.
it's,
I have to say, like, of all of these, like, that I've tried, like, during this podcast, I mean, all of them are hitters, man. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
That's the goal, right? To give people some.
But
some,
gotta say the
I'm
Taters
completely
bottle,
floored by
Yeah.
that
It's
Old
amazing.
Forester pick.
It's
right
amazing.
there.
it's
that
I mean,
good.
hey, don't let your head blow up, too much. But
Because
you did good.
Hey, by the way, this was my barrel. Like, of the group
Yeah.
that I was in, this was my.
That was
like,
you. You were like, this is the one, guys.
Maybe one of, like, because this was for the rescue, like,
Yeah.
they let me kind of sort of take the lead on this. So, yeah, I mean, sort of.
Because I've had some terrible Old Forester single barrel picks. But this one
is fantastic.
This one is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, if you could come up with a, like, I'm not just saying this pick, but like picks in this kind of ballpark. If you could have this as your daily drinker, I mean,
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
be happy as all get out.
yeah,
And it's super easy at 90 proof, and
I'm
and
upset
the
I-
flavor profile is outstanding.
I'm upset I only have half a bottle left.
Yeah.
It went quick. I had the opportunity for more.
Dave and
but-
I are upset. We never freaking got one.
Well, you guys should have been around in the game longer.
yeah.
I guess so.
all right.
What was that?
We're
No,
good
you
with that.
you guys were in, right? That was
that's
last year.
right.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah,
we'll wait till we crack a bottle of wine. They go, what are you drinking?
What are you drinking?
Should've-
No, don't
should've
worry.
been around
You should have
longer.
been in the
Don't-
game longer.
That's right.
Can I have some?
Well, you guys,
Nope.
yeah, you guys were in the game, right? So you just didn't hear about it, or like up
I don't know.
north, or-
When did that come out?
That was-
Last fall.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I was.
Just didn't have any friends then.
yeah, that's all right.
I didn't know a lot
You still
about
don't.
Ryan's.
Well, I mean, to be honest,
We're-
I
we
didn't
call
know
it
you
acquaintance.
until a few months ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
No, but I mean, just in Ryan's in general, hearing what's coming out from them and picks, I wasn't as keen on them.
Right.
I was in Houston Bourbon Society, but it seemed like a lot of the things I saw, back then, year and a half ago, was always a lot of NASA liquor, a lot of Liquor Hut, a lot of Village
Right.
liquor, a lot of stuff like that. I didn't hear a lot about.
Which that I
Ryan's.
think you have it, that Liquor Hut 1792 Baldwin Bond.
Oh
is-
yeah,
is
I've almost
amazing.
I've almost drank the
Yeah,
whole
that's
thing.
good. That's because we were drinking through it.
So
one of
where
these
does
nights.
where does Ryan's get his publicity? Is it in HBS or is it in Bad Wine Reviews? Where does he-
I'm both, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think he's done a good job of. Well, I mean, social media is like
Sure.
a double-edged sword. Like what good, bad, whatever. But he does get the his products and his releases out on social
I think
media.
he does a good job
lot,
about promoting
I think the
himself.
web platform too, like having their web page, you can go on, look at, you can see the price of the single barrel picks and all that. I mean, I think that all helps.
A lot of
right?
times he does ordering online, which
Yeah.
is which is nice. So,
Dave, I'm knocking on wood, crossing my fingers, and maybe we'll get one of those Four Roses when they
Keeping
come
my
out.
fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's-
man.
I think we're all knocking on for that.
yeah,
too?
Yeah, now I'm going to sign up for it. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
No,
I didn't
haven't
even
done
know
either.
about
Yeah,
it.
I got to go do that.
I was talking about a Four Roses.
Oh,
pick.
well,
I
that
know
would
somebody know
well,
might be doing
That
it.
one of
that
our
too.
guests today is involved
Just
in.
saying.
yeah, that might be
Yeah.
nice too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll go twice.
That's the one I'm talking about.
We're talking about the first one.
Because from what I saw, you are eligible to buy a case if you're on the pick.
Well,
Way to put that out there, Dave. You want me to edit there?
Edit.
Radio
cut
edit.
that. No, I mean, like, yeah.
Those picks are great. I really enjoy the four.
And the thing I like about that is the case is 24, which is awesome.
if only.
That's not how it works.
No,
Your buddies go in on a case with you? That's how we did it in college with beer and stuff.
Yeah, right.
If it were 24, I'd buy 24.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be a great experience, and
Yeah, I'm happy for you, man. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I mean, just to be able to do that, I think is great.
yeah, I really enjoy the process, and Four Roses is top notch when they do it. Of all the picks that I've done, they're one of the top. You know, so
I think it'd be such a great opportunity. It'd be a fun experience to do that kind of thing. You know, it'd be real fun.
oh yeah.
Hope you.
Well, this has been fun, guys. I appreciate you guys doing the show.
Yeah.
Well,
been a
thank you,
blast.
Rob.
Absolutely. Thank you. For
Hopefully,
having us
everybody
on.
listening got a little information on what we think are really good bourbons that are available every day on the shelf for between that $30 and $60 range.
And some outside that range too.
A couple, but for the most part, we
Hopefully
stayed in
enjoy
there.
'em.
Tasted through some great bourbons and ryes today.
We did taste you some rye. We need to probably do another show just dedicated more to rye. I'm a big rye fan.
I got a bunch of
I'm good
Willets.
with that.
But the next show, just so you guys listening to the end, Four Roses, all 10 recipes. We're going to do
Yes.
that. We'll definitely eat some food before and after.
So how about that'd be
Two-part
nice,
series
nice little,
or all
nice
10?
little
We're going to do it
invite.
all at once.
All in
Matt
one.
says we can do it all at once.
All in.
I think we can.
I think we can too. Let's.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. And until our next episode, enjoy your next pour.